Hi guys, welcome to another episode of SCN. On today's show, we're joined by our favourite in-house attorney, Roslyn Lerena from Lerena Attorneys. And to end off with, as always, we've got some interesting and exciting videos showing you just what goes on behind the legal scene. Ros, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We've had a couple of viewers ringing us up with various different legal issues. And what we've done today is we've got two issues we're going to tackle. Ros is going to add some advice. The first one coming from Sandro from Edenvale. Here's a guy that's emailed us. He has got quite a dilemma. He gave his car to a dealer to sell. It is financed. The dealer sold the car and hasn't paid the bank or him for the car. What does he do now? Ros, what do you recommend in a situation like that?
Well, in this situation, the dealer would probably be fraudulently, have acted fraudulently and will be criminally liable as well as civilly liable. And there's an existing contract already between Sandro and the bank, so he would have to obviously comply with his obligations in terms of that agreement with the bank. You'd have to settle the bank. And then obviously go after the dealer in the dealer's capacity as either company or personally in order to recoup whatever money he's paid to the bank to settle.
So in this particular instance, let's say it's Westbank. Westbank are going to come after the owner of the car. They're not interested in his story about having left the car with a dealer. They're going to go to him for the money. Would Westbank engage their legal services to try and get the car recovered, or do they not care? While the guy's still making payment for his car, I'm guessing it's his problem. If he defaulted, if he got behind on payments and the bank were looking to repossess the vehicle, then obviously they'd go and seek it. So while the guy's up to date with his payments, it's very much his problem and he needs to try and solve it with the dealer that sold the car.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think, obviously the contractual nexus is between the bank and the consumer. So they're going to inevitably go after the consumer because, you know, that's where their recourse lies.
So Sandro's liable.
Exactly.
In these kind of instances, there are a lot of dealers consigning cars out there, but I think it's imperative that guys understand. If you're going to go into a dealer and you're going to consign your car, in my mind, to the best of my knowledge, I should say, you cannot consign a motor vehicle with a dealer unless you've got the express written permission of the bank. Now, I know it goes on all day, every day, but you do allow yourself to be exposed if you're not getting the kind of permissions you need from the institution.
Yeah, I would obviously suggest that you write a letter to the bank stating that you want their consent to consign the car to a dealer. At least they're aware that the fact that the car's been sold, as well as the fact that it's not in your possession. Just to have obviously some form of documentary proof that you have given the car to the dealer, that the bank is aware of it, and it just safeguards you in the event that there are any future issues.
And obviously when you're dropping a car off with a dealer, a nice clear concise consignment sale agreement. So that would detail when the car was dropped off, what the amount of money to be returned to the bank is, what the amount of money to be returned to the owner is, and over what kind of period.
And it would also allow you to also, if you had to in that event sue the dealer for your money that you've received for the car, you then at least would go out based on that contract, and there's documentary evidence that you've entered into this contract, so it would make your life a lot easier to prove.
So he would be in breach of contract then. So if he didn't settle, didn't pay on time, and didn't pay the prescribed amounts, he would be in a breach of a contract that you'd put together with him.
Exactly, and I mean you could have all types of clauses that your attorney would draft for you in those instances.
So once again, we've talked about this on the previous legal shows that we have been doing. Prevention is better than cure, as always. So go in with your eyes open, understand exactly what it is you're looking to get out of the deal, and understand exactly what the shortcomings may be before you go and see your attorney.
Another instance is if obviously you want your attorney to handle the transaction, they would draft the contract, and the money from the sale would go into their trust account, and they would disperse the funds. They'd say they would settle the bank, pay the dealer his commission, and then pay you any surplus or profit that you've made on the car. So that would probably be your safest bet in any situation when you're dealing, with dealers and private parties as well.
We talk about Motorfin all the time, motorfin.com. These are the guys that go out there and handle the transaction for you specifically. They do allow you to be able to enter into these kind of transactions without getting too legally involved. So always a good way to go to the guys who know what they're doing. Our second query came from Gabby in Sunninghill. Gabby emailed us telling us the following. I have a car I bought and paid for cash. The registration documents were supposed to be delivered to me, but some 4 weeks later I still haven't received them. Where do I stand in terms of the law on ownership? Ros, what would you advise Gabby to do in this particular instance?
Well, in terms of the law of ownership, she basically owns the car because there's been a valid contract of sale that's been concluded. she's purchased it, there's been delivery of the vehicle. The only thing that hasn't taken place is obviously the actual documentary part of it, which would be the transfer from the owner's name to the new, obviously, owner's name. So I would advise her, if obviously she's requested it already previously from the owners and they're not cooperating, that she'd have to approach the courts for an interdict, forcing the previous owners to sign the necessary documents in order to effect that transfer. Obviously, then they would be liable for legal costs because she's had to approach the courts for that relief.
Yes.
And, because they've been unreasonable in withholding it.
Yeah.
So that would be her recourse.
And again, guys, prevention being better than cure. At the time of transaction, when you're handing over a big wad of cash to somebody when you're buying their car, please make sure that the papers are there. We've done a show in the past about handling the documentation and the registration documentation. It's absolutely imperative that you get the documentation on the day you pay for the car. It's very hard chasing guys afterwards. Once they got your money, they will slow down their performance levels. Now, the problem we've got here, so Gabby's got the car, she hasn't got the paperwork, which means the car's not strictly registered in her name. If these guys, even being forced to by court, they can't produce the latest documentation, what's the last course of events here?
Well, the last course of events would obviously be that they refund her the purchase price and she would give them back the car. Okay. If she's done any improvements to the vehicle, either necessary improvements or luxurious improvements, she will claim that back as well. Okay. So that would be her recourse against the owners of the vehicle. Another thing is also if you have outstanding fines, and if you're incurring fines as a new owner of the vehicle, it's still accruing to the previous.
That's very true.
So it's to their detriment as well if they don't sign the latest documents over.
It's lessons learned. We look at these. We've talked about this in the past, but again, consulting your attorney is another cost you're going to have to incur. It's far easier just to make sure that you got your ducks in the row before you go in. Like Sandro before, the advice is get a contract up front. Whether you're paying cash or financing a car, get a contract up front. Make sure you understand exactly where you stand in terms of non-performance from the seller and or the buyer. Ross, thanks very much. That's some great advice.
Thank you.
Guys, have a look at what goes on behind the scenes in some of these South African courts of law.
Flawless victory. Choose your destiny. Flawless victory.
Ross, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure having Roslyn in our studio. Guys, thanks for watching as well, and don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the original videos on the links below. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe if you haven't already. I've been Nick, it's been real. See you soon.
Surf4Cars. See you, Lenny.